Nkemjika, my dear boy, what brings you back to me? Nkemjika squared his shoulders, his resolve hardening. I want out, Chukwemeka. I want to break our deal. But Chukwemeka only chuckled, the sound sending shivers down Nkemjika's spine. Oh, Nkemjika, you made a bargain with the devil himself. There is no backing out now. In the bustling streets of Lagos, Nigeria, the air was thick with the scent of fried plantains and the rhythm of Afrobeat music. Among the chaos of the city, Nkemjika Okeke, a young and ambitious musician, strummed his guitar with fervor, hoping to catch the attention of passerby. But despite his talent, the world seemed indifferent to his music. One humid evening, as Nkemjika sat on a makeshift stage outside a local bar, a shadow fell across him. Looking up, he saw a tall, enigmatic figure standing before him. The stranger's dark eyes gleamed with an otherworldly intensity, sending a shiver down Nkemjika's spine. "Are you Nkemjika Okeke?" the stranger asked in a deep, resonant voice. Nkemjika nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "Yes, that's me." The stranger smiled, revealing a set of gleaming white teeth. "My name is Chukwuemeka," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I have been following your music, Nkemjika. You have a rare gift, one that deserves to be heard by the world." Surprised by the stranger's words, Nkemjika felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Could this be his big break at last? "I can make your dreams come true, Nkemjika," Chukwuemeka continued, his eyes alight with an unearthly glow. "I can give you fame, fortune, everything you have ever desired. All I ask for in return is your soul." Nkemjika's heart skipped a beat. The offer was tempting, too tempting to ignore. But the thought of selling his soul sent a chill down his spine. Was he willing to make such a first-hand bargain? I don't know," Nkemjika stammered, torn between his ambition and his moral compass. Chukwuemeka placed a hand on Nkemjika's shoulder, his touch cold as ice. "Think about it, Nkemjika. Fame, fortune, adoration, all of it could be yours. But remember, time waits for no one." With those words, Chukwuemeka disappeared into the night, leaving Nkemjika alone with his thoughts. As the sounds of Lagos faded into distance, Nkemjika knew that he stood at a crossroads. Would he choose the path of temptation and damnation, or would he stay true to his music? With a heavy heart, Nkemjika packed up his guitar and made his way home, the weight of Chukwuemeka's offer hanging over him like a dark cloud. Little did he know, his decision would shape the course of his destiny in ways he could never imagine. In the bustling city of Lagos, Nkemjika's life seemed to have taken a sudden turn for the better. His music was gaining traction, and his name was beginning to echo through the streets. But with fame came an airy undercurrent of strange occurrences that Nkemjika couldn't quite shake off. One humid evening, after a particular electrifying performance at a local bar, Nkemjika found himself wandering the dimly lit streets of Lagos, his mind still buzzing with the adrenaline of the night. As he turned a corner, he caught sight of a shadow figure lurking in the darkness. It was Chukwuemeka, the mysterious stranger who had offered him fame and fortune in exchange for his soul. Nkemjika's heart skipped a beat as Chukwuemeka stepped forward, his eyes glinting with an otherworldly intensity. "Nkemjika," he said, in a voice that seemed to reverberate through the night. Your music is enchanting, but you have only just begun to scratch the surface of your potential. Unease prickled at the back of Nkemjika's neck as he glanced around nervously. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Chukwemeka's lips curled into a sly smile. I want to help you reach the pinnacle of success, he said, his voice dripping with honeyed promises. But I require something from you. Nkemjika's pulse quickened. He knew deep down that dealing with Chukwemeka was dangerous. But the allure of fate and fortune was too tempting to resist. Swallowing hard, he nodded. What do you need? Chukwemeka's smile widened, revealing gleaming white teeth that seemed to glimmer in the darkness. Your soul, he replied, his voice as smooth as silk. Nkemjika's breath caught in his throat. The weight of Chukwemeka's words hung heavy in the air, suffocating him with their implications. But as he looked into the stranger's eyes, he saw a glimmer of something dark and insidious lurking beneath the surface. Before he could stop himself, Nkemjika heard the words tumbling from his lips. I accept. A shiver ran down his spine as Chukwemeka's grin widened, a deadly gleam dancing in his eyes. With a flick of his wrist, he produced a contract from the folds of his coat. The words written in a language Nkemjika couldn't understand. Without hesitation, Nkemjika signed his name at the bottom, sealing his fate with a flourish of his pen. As he handed the contract back to Chukwemeka, a cold sensation washed over Nkemjika, sending a chill down his spine. But before he could react, Chukwemeka vanished into the night, leaving Nkemjika alone with his thoughts and the weight of his decision. For a moment, Nkemjika stood frozen in place, his mind reeling from what had just transpired. But as the reality of his bargain sank in, a sense of dread began to gnaw at him from within. From that moment on, strange occurrences seemed to follow Nkemjika wherever he went. Instruments would inexplicably go out of tone during his performances, and airy whispers would echo through the empty corridors of his apartment late at night. No matter how hard he tried to shake off the feeling of unease, it clung to him like a shadow, a constant reminder of the devil's bargain he had struck. As Nkemjika's fame continued to grow, so too did the sinister undercurrent that seemed to permeate every aspect of his life. And as he looked over the city skyline, battered in the orange glow of the setting sun, Nkemjika couldn't shake the feeling that he had unleashed forces beyond his control, forces that threatened to consume him whole. In no time, Nkemjika became so popular, he got lots of gigs, his social media accounts grew immediately, he was signed with big brands across Nigeria, he enjoyed the fame and had lots of fans everywhere. At some point, he forgot about the bargain and lived his life like nothing had happened. One day, Nkemjika sat in his small apartment, his fingers strumming absent-mindedly on his guitar. The world seemed to close in on him, suffocating him with the weight of his newfound success. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside, Nkemjika felt a creeping sense of unease. Ever since striking the deal with Chukwemeka, his once vibrant music had taken on a darker tone. It seemed to emanate from within him, twisting and contorting into something unrecognizable. He glanced around the room. The walls adorned with posters of his face plastered on billboards, a constant reminder of the price he had paid for fame. But as the cheers of his adoring fans echoed in his ears, Nkemjika couldn't help but feel a hollow emptiness gnawing at his soul. A soft knock on the door interrupted his thoughts, and he glanced up to see his friend and fellow musician Chidi standing in the doorway. Chidi's eyes held a mixture of concern and curiosity as he stepped into the room. Nkemjika, are you okay? Chidi asked, his voice laced with worry. Nkemjika forced a smile, trying to push aside the growing sense of dread that threatened to consume him. I'm fine, just tired from the show, he replied, his words sounding hollow even to his own ears. Chidi's brow furrowed in disbelief, but he didn't press the matter further. Instead, he moved to sit beside Nkemjika, his presence a comforting anchor in the storm raging within him. The two friends sat in silence for a while, the only sound the soft strumming of Nkemjika's guitar. But the quietude was shattered when a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, sending a shiver down Nkemjika's spine. Chidi glanced around the room, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. Do you feel that? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Nkemjika nodded, a chill creeping down his spine. It'd been like this ever since. He trailed off, unable to bring himself to voice the truth aloud. Chidi's expression softened, understanding the flickering in his eyes. You made a deal, didn't you? He asked, his voice barely concealing his concern. Nkemjika swallowed hard, the weight of his guilt pressing down on him like a laden weight. I had no choice, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant sounds of the city. Chidi reached out, placing a reassuring hand on Nkemjika's shoulder. We will figure this out together, he said, his voice firm with determination. But even as his friend spoke the words, Nkemjika couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom that hung over him like a dark cloud. He knew that breaking the deal with Chukwemeka would come at a steep price, one that he wasn't sure he was willing to pay. As the night wore on, Nkemjika found himself lost in a sea of doubt and uncertainty, his mind swelling with thoughts of what lay ahead. But amidst the turmoil, one thing remained clear. He would do whatever it took to reclaim his soul, even if it meant facing the darkest corners of his own heart. With resolve hardening within him, Nkemjika vowed to confront Chukwemeka and put an end to the sinister bargain that threatened to consume him whole. But little did he know that the path to redemption would be fraught with peril, testing him in ways he could never have imagined. After Chidi left, Nkemjika sat in his cramped apartment in Lagos, the neon light from the bustling city casting shadows across his face. His fingers absently strummed his guitar, but the music that once flowed effortlessly now felt heavy and burdensome. Ever since striking the deal with Chukwemeka, his career has skyrocketed. His songs dominated the airwaves, his face plastered on billboards and magazine covers. But with every accolade and sold-out concert came a creeping sense of unease. He remembered the night he first met Chukwemeka, the man who promised him fame and fortune in exchange for his soul. At the time, it seemed like a small price to pay for success. But now, as the weight of his bargain bore down on him, Nkemjika couldn't shake the feeling of regret. His girlfriend Choma entered the room, her face etched with concern. Nkem, you have been distant lately. Is everything okay? Nkemjika forced a smile, but the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. I'm fine, Choma, just tired from all the shows. But Choma wasn't convinced. She sat beside him, her hand resting on his knee. Nkem, I can see something is bothering you. You can talk to me. Nkemjika hesitated, unsure of how to put his fears into words. Finally, he confessed. I made a deal, Choma, with a man named Chukwemeka. He promised me fame and fortune in exchange for my soul. Choma's eyes widened in shock. Nkem, how could you? You sold your soul? Nkemjika hung his head in shame. I thought it was worth it at the time, but now, I don't know anymore. I feel like I've lost myself in all of this. Choma wrapped her arms around him, holding him close. We'll figure this out together, Nkem. You don't have to face this alone. But Nkemjika knew it wasn't that simple. Chukwemeka held a power over him that he couldn't shake. And with each passing day, the consequences of his bargain grew more apparent. As the night wore on, Nkemjika tossed and turned in bed, tormented by nightmares of a future he couldn't escape. He knew he had to confront Chukwemeka to find a way to break free from his grasp. But the thought filled him with dread. The next day, Nkemjika set out to find Chukwemeka, his heart pounding in his chest. He traced their previous meeting back to a dimly lit bar on the outskirts of Lagos, where he had first encountered the mysterious stranger. As he entered the bar, Nkemjika's eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of Chukwemeka. And then, in the far corner, he spotted him, a shadowy figure cloaked in darkness. Nkemjika approached cautiously, his stomach churning with apprehension. "Chukwuemeka," he called out, his voice barely above a whisper. The man turned to face him, a sinister smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Nkemjika, my dear boy, what brings you back to me?" Nkemjika squared his shoulders, his resolve hardening. "I want out, Chukwuemeka. I want to break our deal." But Chukwuemeka only chuckled, the sound sending shivers down Nkemjika's spine. "Oh, Nkemjika, you made a bargain with the devil himself. There is no backing out now." Desperation clowned at Nkemjika's chest as he realized the gravity of his situation. But deep down, he knew he couldn't give up without a fight. With a silly determination, Nkemjika turned and walked away, knowing that his battle was far from over. But no matter the cost, he was determined to reclaim his soul and break free from the clutches of his first-hand bargain. Walking through the vibrant city, Nkemjika couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that gnawed at his soul. Everywhere he looked, he saw the glittering light of success, but they only served to highlight the darkness that lurked within him. Passing by a lively nightclub, the thumping rhythm of music beckoned him inside. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and alcohol as bodies swayed to the beat of the music. Nkemjika slipped through the crowd, feeling like a stranger in his own skin. He spotted familiar faces in the crowd, old friends and acquaintances who had once shared his dreams, but now they seemed distant, their smiles forced and their laughter hollow. It was as if his success had erected an invisible barrier between them, leaving him isolated and alone. As the night wore on, Nkemjika found himself standing alone on the rooftop terrace, gazing out at the twinkling lights of the city below. The cool breeze brushed against his skin, carrying with it the distant sounds of laughter and music. In that moment of solitude, Nkemjika couldn't help but wonder if it was all worth it. The fame, the fortune, the fleeting moments of adoration. Was this the price he had to pay for his dreams to come true? And at what cost? Lost in his thoughts, Nkemjika didn't notice the figure that had silently approached him until they spoke. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" A voice said, its tone smooth and seductive. Startled, Nkemjika turned to see a striking woman standing beside him, her dark eyes sparkling with an otherworldly halo. "Yes, it is," he replied, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The woman smiled knowingly, as if she could sense the turmoil raging into him. "You are not like the others, are you?" she said, her voice low and melodious. "There is something different about you." Nkemjika felt a shiver run down his spine at her words, as if she could see straight into his soul. "I suppose you could say that," he said consciously. The woman's smile widened, revealing a hint of mischief. "I like that," he said, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "You have fire in your soul, Nkemjika. Don't let it burn out." With that cryptic message, the woman vanished into the night, leaving Nkemjika alone once more. As he stood there, pondering her words, Nkemjika felt a sense of clarity wash over him. Perhaps he had lost sight of what really mattered in his pursuit of fame and fortune. Maybe it was time to reconnect with the people and passion that had once brought him joy. With a newfound resolve, Nkemjika made his way back into the heart of the city, determined to rediscover the essence of who he was before the halo of fame had clouded his vision. And as he danced to the rhythm of life once more, he knew that no amount of success could ever replace the warmth of genuine connection and the joy of being true to oneself. As Nkemjika walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Everywhere he turned, he caught glimpses of shadowy figures lurking in the corners, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. It was as if the very fabric of reality was beginning to unravel around him, revealing a darker and more sinister truth lurking just beneath the surface. Arriving at the recording studio where he had spent countless hours pouring his heart and soul into music, Kimjika found himself greeted by a sense of unease. The familiar sights and sounds that once filled him with inspiration now seemed to mock him, reminding him of the first time bargain he had struck with Chukwemeka. Taking a deep breath, Kejika pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside, the cool air of the studio washing over him like a welcome embrace. But as he made his way to the recording booth, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. His producer Ifeanyi greeted him with a warm smile, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes that Nkemjika couldn't ignore. "You alright, Nkemjika?" Ifeanyi asked, his voice tinged with worry. "You seem different somehow." Nkemjika forced a smile, brushing off Ifeanyi's concern with a wave of his hand. "I'm fine, Ifeanyi. Just a little tired, that's all. Let's get to work." But as the day wore on and Nkemjika struggled to find his rhythm in the recording booth, it became increasingly clear that something was amiss. His once powerful voice seemed to falter and waver, the notes coming out strained and hollow. It was as if a dark cloud had settled over him, draining him of the passion and vitality that had once fueled his music. Frustrated and confused, Kinjika called for a break, retreating to the dimly lit lounge area of the studio to collect his thoughts. But as he sat alone in the darkness, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, a voice broke through the silence, sending shivers down Nkemjika's spine. "You can't escape me, Nkemjika. I own you now." Nkemjika's blood ran cold as he turned to see Chukwemeka, standing in the doorway, his eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. "What do you want from me?" Nkemjika demanded, his voice trembling with fear and anger. Chukwemeka smiled, a cold, cruel twist of his lips. "I want what is rightfully mine, your soul, and I won't rest until I have it." With a flick of his wrist, Chukwemeka vanished into the thin air, leaving Nkemjika alone in the darkness. As the echoes of his laughter faded into the night, Nkemjika knew that his battle was far from over. With Chukwemeka's true intentions now laid bare, he would have to summon every ounce of strength and courage he possessed to break free from the dark forces that threatened to consume him. The city of Lagos bustled with its usual energy as Nkemjika ventured out into the street once again, his heart heavy with the weight of his burden. The encounter with Chukwemeka had left him shaking, but it had also ignited a spark of determination within him. He refused to be a pawn in the devil's game any longer. With a newfound sense of purpose, he set out to reclaim his soul and break free from Chukwemeka's grip once and for all. As he wandered through the crowded streets, Nkemjika found himself drawn to a small building tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city. It was a place he had never noticed before, but something about it called to him, beckoning him inside with a promise of salvation. Pushing open the creaky door, Nkemjika stepped into the dimly lit interior of the building, his senses assaulted by the scent of incense and the sound of hushed whispers. It was a place of mystery and magic, a sanctuary for those seeking guidance and enlightenment in the darkest of times. As he made his way deeper into the building, Kimjika found himself face to face with an elderly woman, her eyes sparkling with wisdom and insight. "Welcome, child," he said, her voice soft and soothing. "I have been expecting you." Nkemjika was taken aback by her words, but he couldn't deny the sense of comfort he felt in her presence. "How did you know I was coming?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman smiled, her wrinkles deepening with the gesture. "I see more than you know, child. I know of the darkness that haunts you, and I know of the light that lies within you. But it is up to you to choose which path you will follow. With those words, the woman led Nkejika into a small candlelit room at the back of the building, where she began to perform a series of ancient rituals and incantations. As the air crackled within energy, Nkejika felt a sense of peace wash over him, as if the weight of the world had been lifted from his shoulders. But as he began to relax into the warmth of the moment, a sudden gust of wind tore through the room, extinguishing the candle and plunging them into darkness. And in the shadows, Nkejika caught a glimpse of a familiar figure lurking in the corner, Chukwuemeka. You cannot escape me, Nkemjika, Chukwuemeka sneered, his voice dripping with malice. Your soul belongs to me, now and forever. But Nkemjika refused to back down. With a newfound sense and determination burning within him, he summoned all of his courage and confronted Chukwuemeka head on. I may have made a deal with you, but I refuse to be your puppet any longer, he declared, his voice ringing with defiance. I will reclaim my soul, no matter the cost. With those words, Nkemjika unleashed a burst of energy unlike anything he had ever felt before, driving Chukwuemeka back into the darkness from where he came. And as the shadows receded, Nkemjika felt a sense of freedom wash over him, as if he had finally broken free from the chains that had bound him for so long. As he stepped out into the sunlight once again, Nkemjika knew that his journey was far from over. But with the support of his newfound allies and the strength of his own spirit, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For he was no longer just a pawn in the devil's game. He was Nkemjika, and his soul belonged to him alone. As the golden rays of the morning sun filtered through the bustling streets of Lagos, Nkemjika emerged from the shadows of his past, ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and redemption. With each step he took, he could feel the weight of his burden lifting, replaced by a sense of newfound freedom and purpose. Determined to reclaim his soul and break free from the grip of darkness that had pledged him so long, Nkemjika turned to the one thing that had always brought him solace and strength, his music. Venturing into the heart of Lagos, Nkemjika found himself drawn to a vibrant local music scene, where the sounds of traditional drums and modern beats melded together in a symphony of life and energy. It was here, among the hustle and bustle of the city streets, that he would confront his ultimate test. As he took to the stage, the crowd erupted into cheers and applause, their faces alight with excitement and anticipation. But as Nkemjika began to play, he could feel the weight of Chukwuemeka's presence bearing down on him, threatening to drown out the music that flowed from his soul. But Nkemjika refused to be silenced. With each strum of his guitar and every note he sang, he poured his heart and soul into his music, channeling the pain and anguish of his past into a powerful message of hope and redemption. And as the music filled the air, something miraculous began to happen. The darkness that had once enveloped Nkemjika began to recede, replaced by a brilliant light that shone from within him. It was if his music had become a beacon of hope, illuminating the path to his own salvation. But as Nkemjika reached the climax of his performance, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity. It was Chukwuemeka, his presence casting a dark shadow over the stage. You cannot escape me, Nkemjika, Chukwuemeka sneered, his voice dripping with malice. Your soul belongs to me, and I will not rest until I have it. But Nkemjika stood tall, his voice ringing out clear and strong above the roar of the crowd. I may have made a deal with you, but I refuse to be bound by it any longer, he declared, his words echoing through the night air. I am Nkemjika, and my soul belongs to me alone. With those words, Nkemjika unleashed a torrent of music unlike anything the world had ever seen, driving Chukwuemeka back into the darkness. And as the last note of his performance faded into the night, Nkemjika knew that he had finally reclaimed his soul and his destiny. For he was no longer just a musician, he was a beacon of hope and redemption, a testament to the power of music to heal and inspire. And as he looked out into the sea of faces before him. He knew that his journey was far from over. But with the strength of his music and the fire of his spirit burning bright within him, Nkemjika was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For he knew that no matter how dark the night may seem, the dawn would always come, bringing with it the promise of a new day and a brighter tomorrow. As the deadline of his first time bargain with Chukwemeka loomed ever close, Nkemjika found himself grappling with a myriad of emotions. The weight of his decision pressed down upon him like a heavy burden, threatening to crush him under its weight. But amidst the chaos of his inner turmoil, one thing remained clear: he would not go down without a fight. With each passing day, the city of Lagos seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of the fateful moment when Nkemjika's bargain would come due. Everywhere he went, whispers followed him like shadows, their voices filled with fear and uncertainty. But Nkemjika refused to be swayed by their doubts. He knew that his destiny was in his own hands, and he would not let anyone, not even Chukwemeka, dictate his fate. As the day of reckoning drew near, Nkemjika found himself drawn to the quiet solitude of the beach, where the crashing waves and salty breeze offered him a sense of peace amidst the chaos. It was here, beneath the starlit sky, that he would make his final stand against the forces that sought to control him. With a heavy heart, Nkemjika raised his voice in song, the melody carrying his hopes and fears out into the night. As the music swelled around him, he felt a sense of clarity wash over him, as if the answers he sought were hidden within the very notes themselves. But just as he reached the crescendo of his performance, a chilling presence descended upon the beach, sending shivers down Nkemjika's spine. It was Chukwemeka, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity as he stepped out of the shadows. "You cannot escape me, Nkemjika," Chukwemeka sneered, his voice echoing across the deserted beach. "Your time is running out, and soon your soul will belong to me." But Nkemjika refused to back down. With a steely resolve burning in his heart, he faced Chukwemeka head on, his voice ringing out clear and strong above the crashing waves. "I may have made a deal with you, but I refuse to let it define me," he declared, his words carrying the weight of his conviction. "I will fight for my soul until my last breath, and no amount of darkness can extinguish the light that burns within me." With those words, Nkemjika unleashed a torrent of music unlike anything he had ever played before. The melody soaring high above the tumultuous sea, and as the notes danced through the air, weaving a tapestry of hope and defiance, something miraculous began to happen. The very fabric of reality seemed to wrap and bend around Nkemjika, as if the universe itself was responding to the power of his music. And in that moment, he knew that he held the key to his own salvation, a power far greater than anything Chukwemeka could ever hope to possess. As the final chords of his song echoed across the beach, Nkemjika felt a sense of peace wash over him, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He may not have known what the future held, but one thing was certain: he would face it with courage and determination, knowing that his soul belonged to him alone. In the wake of his journey, Nkemjika emerged from the depths of his struggle with a newfound sense of purpose and clarity. The city of Lagos buzzed with anticipation as rumors of his epic battle against Chukwemeka spread like wildfire, weaving a tale of courage and redemption that captivated the heart of all who heard it. But amidst the whirlwind of attention and acclaim, Nkemjika remained grounded, his soul tempered by the fires of adversity. He knew that true victory lay not in the adoration of the masses, but in the quiet moment of self-reflection and growth. As he wandered the familiar streets of Lagos, Nkemjika found himself drawn to the places that had shaped him: the humble markets where he had honed his craft, the bustling music venues where he had first found his voice, and the quiet corners where he had sought solace in the darkest of his times. But it was in the faces of the people he encountered along the way that Nkemjika found the true measure of his legacy. For in their eyes, He saw a reflection of his own journey, of struggle and triumph, of pain and resilience. With each passing day, Nkemjika dedicated himself to using his music as a force for good, spreading a message of hope and unity that transcended language and culture. Through benefit concerts and charity events, he sought to uplift those who had been forgotten by society, offering them a glimmer of light in the darkness. But perhaps his greatest gift was the wisdom he imparted to others, the knowledge that true happiness could not be found in the pursuit of fame and fortune, but in the simple act of kindness and compassion that bound us together as human beings. As the years passed, Nkemjika's legacy continued to grow, spreading far beyond the borders of Lagos to touch lives of people around the world. His music became a beacon of hope for those who had lost their way, a reminder that no matter how dark the night may seem, the dawn would always come. And though he faced many challenges along the way, Nkemjika never wavered in his commitment to staying true to himself, for he knew that his soul was his most precious possession and he would protect it at all costs. As the sun set on another day in Lagos, Nkemjika stood on the beach, his heart overflowing with gratitude for the journey that had brought him to this moment. And as he gazed out into the endless expanse of the sea, he knew that his story was far from over. For Nkemjika had learned the true value of his soul, and in the end, that was the greatest legacy of all. One lesson from this story is that true fulfillment comes from staying true to oneself and one's values, even in the face of temptation and adversity. Nkemjika's journey teaches us that fame and fortune may offer temporary satisfaction, but it is only by remaining grounded in our principles and using our talent for the greater good that we can find lasting happiness and leave a meaningful legacy behind. Additionally, the story highlights the importance of resilience, compassion, and the power of music to inspire hope and bring people together, regardless of their backgrounds or circumstances. Thanks for watching this amazing story about Nkemjika on African Stories. If you liked it and felt inspired with his journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot to us and helps us bring more story to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.